Welcome to Podlr, where we read collections of posts from our Tumblr. Enjoy the mess! Our top 5 systems in media. As we all know, DID/OSDD rep has never been the best in media, so we figured we'd share our favorite systems in media. This will be characters diagnosed with DID or OSDD, or just plural-coded characters. Gotta spread the positivity, you know? Number 5. Venom and Eddie Brock. Marvel Comics/Venom. Venom and Eddie were the reason we started reading comics in the first place. They're an amazing love story, but also an amazing system story, learning how to share a body and work together. It's self-love, but also romantic love. And yes, it's canonically romantic, don't you dare try to deny it. They have like 8 kids, bro. Number 4. Heart, Mind, and Soul. Chani's Charming Chaos Compendium. Now these songs are fire that we have on so many playlists. As far as we know, Chani isn't plural, but still ended up writing a story about human duality that also encompasses plurality quite well. This system feels most relatable to us in how we operate as an OSDD system. Number 3. Shida, Kane, and Rast. League of Legends/Heartsteel. Specifically, we want to mention their Heartsteel versions, where it is heavily hinted that Kane has DID in this universe and Rast is an alter. This does a cool thing we like in League, where they creatively use magic to code in disabilities in the main universe, but then actually keep those disabilities in the more realistic skin lines, like Aphelios staying mute in Heartsteel, for example. We just love the banter Kane and Rast have. Also, their part in the song is the best. Number 2. Asa, Mitaka, and Yoru. Chainsaw Man. We absolutely love these two. We originally read the manga for Makima, but were pleasantly surprised when Denji took a backseat in Art 2 and Asa and Yoru became the protagonists. The way they both start to care for each other more over time is very sweet. It's nice seeing them embrace each other's side a bit more. Asa becomes more confident while Yoru learns compassion. We can't wait until they make it into the anime one day, even if that's 20 years from now at this rate. Number 1. Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, and Jake Lockley. Moon Knight. Specifically, we want to talk about show Moon Knight. The comics are fine, but we absolutely prefer silly sweet cinnamon roll Steven over Bruce Wayne wannabe. But more importantly, the story of DID in Moon Knight is so incredibly important. We actually rewatched it soon after discovering our system. Seeing Mark and Steven learn how to integrate and work together to be Moon Knight is so emotional and powerful. It serves as inspiration and hope that we could achieve that one day. Obviously, there's some stuff played up for Hollywood, but for the most part, it's a very accurate representation of plurality based on our own experiences and others we've seen online. Obviously, not everyone agrees, but it seems rather well received for the most part. Edit. Honorable mention, Sun, Moon, and Eclipse. Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh my god, how could we forget Sun, Moon, and Eclipse, the literally us for real characters, everyone's favorite canonically autistic Skrunkly. We've seen some debates on if the daycare attendant perpetuates the evil alter stereotype. We can certainly agree it's a fine rope to walk, but the way Sun and Moon are written is interesting enough. It's hinted Moon isn't exactly himself at the moment. Moon is also just supposed to play the villain in theater shows. They are theater kids. Quite fun. Homelander and DID. Today we wanted to talk about Homelander from The Boys, specifically Homelander's DID. Now we haven't read the comics, and I've heard he's a bit different there, so this post will just be about Homelander from the show. Even in the earlier seasons, we noticed Homelander tended to zone out and then start masking. At least that's what it looked like at first, but as it kept happening in the show more and more, we started to think, maybe he has DID. Then in season 3 and 4, they basically confirm he is alters in a system with internal communication. Now, we don't know a lot about his system. No alters have names or anything, but they do seem to have clear characteristics from the brief seconds we get with them all together. Homelander having DID can be quite problematic, but also interesting. Let's get the problematic stuff stated as it's important. DID rep in media has never been amazing. You have movies like Split with the evil alter trope that caused massive damage to the world's perception of DID and other dissociative disorders. But Homelander's a bit different than that, in the sense that he doesn't really seem to have an evil alter. They all suck in one way or another. We have a love-hate relationship with Homelander's DID. Obviously, the DID community deserves more rep that aren't villains and murderers, but also Homelander is incredibly well written and his DID is handled with care. He flips the trope of the evil alter on its head by being all evil. Some have said he may have a good alter, his human side. That would just continue to make him flip the trope on its head even more. He has a good alter amongst a system of evil, a complete inverse of the usual trope. We find it incredibly interesting. But back to his DID being handled with care, the show never tries to sugarcoat Homelander's trauma or make it his fault for being abused. He was manipulated his whole life into being tortured by the only people he ever knew. He was a child, and the show knows this. In fact, we'd argue the scenes where he punishes the scientists who raised them are quite uplifting. Obviously, no one IRL can do that to their abusers, but it's a power fantasy many victims have had. It was powerful to see on screen. That's about the only good thing that man has done. But of course he's still a horrible person. Murder, rape, you name it. But even then, his mental condition is still treated with care. It would have been easy to say his DID is what made him evil, but they aren't. He had a rough childhood, but he's still evil, but he is actively choosing to do all these horrible things to people. That was his choice, not the scientist. We have never seen a scene of his alters fighting on whether or not to do the right thing, because none of them really care to. The thing with villainous rep of neurodivergent characters is it can be a damaging stereotype, but also something those with the same condition enjoy seeing on screen. Take the popularity of Jinx from Arcane, for example, the poster girl of BPD. She is a murderer and terrorist, yet her trauma in the show is handled with care. She's a villain, but many still relate to certain aspects of her character. It's fiction. Many neurodivergent people have been told all their lives they're monsters for the conditions they have. Thus it can be freeing to see a character just like you being just that. It's fiction. They didn't really murder anyone. Characters are just toys in a story to play around with. But the thing is, those toys can still cause harm. In a perfect world, a character like Homelander would be fine, because you'd have plenty of characters with DID who are both heroes and villains, and also many in between, but it's not a perfect world. The fact is, DID rep has been mostly harmful, and this doesn't really help. So while Homelander is an extremely interesting and well-written character, the DID aspect was perhaps not needed and may do more harm than good. I think they did an okay enough job in not making it a complete shit show. The DID is not the biggest part of his character, nor the reason he is evil. The condition itself is handled with care, but in a world that desperately needs good DID rep, it's just more of the same. So while we personally may enjoy a good neurodivergent villain, we can also recognize the problem here. We think it's good to look at both the good and bad of what we were given. Not everything is black and white, but at the same time, this is quite a dark shade of gray. Representation in Splatoon. For the Grand Fest, can we just take a moment to celebrate the amazing representation in Splatoon? First of all, it's a game led by women. Name another game with a cast of mostly women. All of the idols share a different culture with the mainstream audience. Callie, Marie, Pearl, and Shiver are Japanese. Marina is black, Fry is Indian, and Big Man is Brazilian. All of this is show, don't tell. It's present in their music and designs, not hidden away. It's celebrated. Pearl and Marina are lesbians. Marina is especially an incredible feat we never thought we'd see in a Nintendo game of all places. A black autistic lesbian. Off the Hook also seems to be Nintendo's favorite of the bands, which again is shocking. In terms of queer representation, Ash is also non-binary, and Shiver is allowed to be androgynous. It just makes us happy knowing how many kids can grow up with these characters and feel seen. This isn't even to mention the story Splatoon tells. The story of the Inklings and Octolings isn't scared to show struggles like class issues or even racism sometimes, but in the end, everyone is brought together through art. Culture is what connects everyone. We think it's quite beautiful. This was a sort of thank you letter to Splatoon. We started liking the franchise as kids because haha, colorful Squid Game, but it soon became an amazing story about art bringing people of all walks of life together. As a random side story, we'll never forget the day gay marriage was legalized in the US. This was back during Splatoon 1 and Miiverse. Every single person in the plaza had a post above their heads saying love wins. We didn't know what that meant at the time. We were raised in a very sheltered Catholic school, but the accepting community of the game is what led to us discovering the queer community and learning more about ourselves. Happily gender fluid and pansexual now. We hope Splatoon was able to provide others with a similar or even better experience. Thank you, Splatoon. Hope to see you again on a new console for round 4. P.S. Also, sorry to Team Present. We are losing all our games. Please send help. The losses hurt the ego. We are being beat up by children. Five Nights at Freddy's, Dead by Daylight, Chapter Speculation. Characters and Cosmetics. As we are sure you've heard, FNAF is coming to DVD after years of being requested. We thought it'd be fun to look at who the potential characters coming to the game could be, and their cosmetics as well. That's the real fun part. First, who do we think is going to be added to the game? Considering this crossover didn't get greenlit until the success of the movie, we're going to say it's all movie-based. Safest bet is Killer, the Yellow Rabbit. Survivors, Mike and Vanessa. They make the most sense. They're the main antagonist and protagonist of the movie, respectively. Obviously excluding Abby, but we doubt they'd ever add her. There are no little kid survivors in DBD. Now on to potential cosmetics. This is mainly just stuff we'd like to see based on previous games, as there isn't much cosmetic options present in the movie. Mixing the games and the movies is a smart idea to entice and excite fans of the franchise anyway. The Yellow Rabbit. Springtrap. Alright, this one was obvious. Of course they're gonna do this. How could they not? Freddy Fazbear. It is an interesting dilemma that the namesake of the franchise is so unimportant, so it wouldn't be surprising if Freddy got a skin. The skins are still canon to the entity's realm as well, so fret not. Clown Springtrap. Probably his most iconic costume from the AR game, but maybe we are biased. Clown characters are always the best. Mike Schmidt. Game-accurate purple shirt. You know the look. Look at that pelvic thrust. Purple guy! In the same vein, we got the iconic guy who is purple, but isn't actually purple guy. Foxy Bully. The event that started it all. Maybe. Probably not, actually, but it certainly was a messy event, both for the lore and William's business. Vanessa Afton Shelley. Okay, just gonna put in now that we are extremely biased for Vanessa. Besides the DCA, she is our favorite character from the games and movie. Security Breach was an amazing concept that was unfortunately executed poorly. It's a shame Vanessa and Vanny never really got their chance to shine. Game Accurate Security Guard. Game Vanessa. What more is there to say? White girl jump scare. Vanny. Now, it would be hard to give her the full suit. Players would think she's a killer, but maybe they could give her a mask similar to Cassie's in Ruin. This mask would just be a head-only accessory, mainly meant to go on the game-accurate outfit. Rainbow hair and pronouns. In the AR game, when Vanessa was going by Ness, she was described as having rainbow hair streaks. It is a shame that this was never in the game. Please, girl, come slay. Kill that old man William with your pronouns, hair dye, and definitely lesbianism. Charlie Emily. Another separate character costume. Charlie was the first female protagonist in the FNAF franchise, and really the first in-depth fleshed-out character we ever got, so fuck, of course she deserves a spot. The original novel trilogy is what led to so much of the lore we have today. Sure, the novels had their weird moments, but Charlie was a standout amazing character. We miss novel Charlie. This would be a great way to bring her back. That's all we got for character and cosmetic ideas. We assume the maps will just be an indoor pizzeria layout of some kind, but as someone who fucking hates indoor DBD maps, it'll be a pipe dream that they add an outdoor Fall Fest map to tease the secret of the Mimic. That'll never happen though, so ignore that and chug salt. The composition of the Moon Knight poster and how it tells a story of its own. This Moon Knight poster uses two types of composition creatively, pyramid and radial. Let's go over what those represent. The pyramid composition represents strength and stability. The strength, of course, makes sense as Moon Knight is, well, a superhero. The stability is pointing toward how both Steven and Mark learn to accept each other and grow more stable as a result. It represents their integration, and once they integrated, they became more powerful, stronger. We must mention it is also a cheeky nod to the fact the show has much to do with ancient Egyptian mythology. They quite literally go to the Great Pyramid of Giza. The radial composition is present with the moon. The radial composition represents divinity. This is obviously referring to Khonshu, god of the moon, but Moon Knight is also present within the divine circle, symbolizing where their power comes from, Khonshu, but also using the pyramid composition to represent how Mark and Steven gain their freedom. Of course, Jake is nowhere to be seen on this poster, so he's not here to be represented in the pyramid getting free of Khonshu, which works because he isn't free in the show either. We just absolutely adore this poster now. We never would have known this stuff without the class we were in, but it's so interesting how much goes into graphic design. We especially love the combination of compositions being used to tell its own story. It's genius. Sorry, we need to just gush about all the content Maria Robotnik is getting this year. It's the year of Shadow, and you can't have Shadow without Maria. Their dynamic has always been so sweet but short-lived. It's amazing that we are going to get to see more of it. We especially wanted to highlight how Maria's disability is actually being touched upon and represented in the newest short. It's not much, or even the center of attention, really, and that's fine, but the fact they acknowledge and represent it with care is what matters. Shadow doesn't consider Maria a burden. He loves and cares for her. We really hope this is brought up a bit in the movie as well. Unfortunately, we all know what happens to Maria, so maybe she's not the best character to be able to see yourself in, but it's still important for there to be a character people can relate to and see themselves in, especially minorities who don't tend to get a lot of representation. Maria was cared for while alive, and that's important to show on screen to explain their character dynamics, but also for the people who may need to see themselves with that love and care as well. Edit. Yeah, her disability wasn't in the movie. Between the new game and movie, it's practically the year of Maria just as much as it's the year of Shadow. We are especially excited to see where her modern introduction in Sonata Generations goes. It's very dangerous bringing her back. They could sour one of the best tragedies and stories in the Sonic franchise, but we have faith in Ian Flynn will deliver. We also are fairly certain he will deliver many a tears. Edit. He did. There were many tears. The genius of not labeling Jinx. The messiness of labels. Jinx from Arcane is known as the poster girl for borderline personality disorder, but today we wanted to talk about some of the other conditions she has symptoms of, but doesn't necessarily qualify for, and why it was smart to not label her. Let's go over the different conditions Jinx could have. Of course, first we have BPD, not going to spend too much time on that one, but she hits all 9 of the diagnostic criteria. Schizophrenia. Jinx is seen to hallucinate many times in the show. She gets visual hallucinations of her family she has guilt over killing. She experiences overlays of childlike drawings. She has auditory hallucinations and delusions as well. BPD can come with hallucinations and delusions, but it tends to be often more auditory, and delusions of grandeur than anything else. Schizophrenia and bipolar are the conditions more likely to cause the type of psychosis Jinx experiences. DID/OSDD. An argument could also be made for Jinx nearing a dissociative disorder. We haven't seen much of the show from the Season 2 trailers, but they do seem to be hinting at Jinx embracing powder a bit more. It is common in BPD for the person to believe they are a completely different person than their past self. We think this is well represented in characters like Spinel from Steven Universe or Ashley Graves, Lele from The Coffin of Andy and Lele. This is of course also shown in Jinx with powder. But Jinx and Powder's differences go a bit beyond the typical BPD self-image issues. Their personalities, while similar, are quite different, and instead of Powder staying purely in the past, Jinx switches between the two personalities. You can see her face change to be more split soft like Powder in certain scenes. They quite literally transform her face. Some other differences are Jinx is represented by pink, while Powder tends to be blue. Jinx is left-handed, while Powder is right-handed. She uses her left to shoot, right for other stuff. Jinx is the daughter of Silco, Powder is the daughter of Vander. Both are the child of Zon. Jinx is of course also known to dissociate in many scenes. As a side detail, we just love how well animated the face acting is. While Jinx fits BPD best, it is also important to note that comorbidity is a real thing. While rare, all three of these conditions can be had at the same time. Personality disorders and dissociative disorders especially tend to be comorbid. The most likely reason Jinx isn't diagnosed with anything is stigma. Giving a terrorist a mental illness may come off as demonizing, but Jinx is still loved by the neurodivergent community because her symptoms and trauma are treated with care. She's a fun, relatable character, but we think another genius reason is because she's all-encompassing. Saying she's BPD may make anyone who doesn't have BPD immediately think, oh well then I won't find her relatable. But in an age where fandom likes relatability and kins the most, you cannot afford that. Instead, really any neurodivergent can see themselves in her. This is both a smart strategy, but also just an accurate portrayal of how real life ends up looking. Medical conditions are technically social constructs. That's not to say they aren't real, but that they're labeled by humans. It's a list of behaviors the body or brain executes. But humans are messy. Who's to say one person is going to neatly fit into that BPD box? Eventually you get to a point where you have someone diagnosed with 10 or so mental conditions. Hi, yes it's us. We've been diagnosed with 10. Humans were not made to fit into boxes. You see this pattern with queer identities all the time as well. The creation of microlabels has greatly helped people categorize and understand themselves, but at the end of the day, the most accurate label is you. You are you. Insert name here is insert name here. Thanks for listening to the ramblings of a mad Jinx Kinney. Here's to hoping Season 2 is just as good as the first one. Still absolutely loving Jinx's new look. Edit. Season 2 was not as good. Tech Magic's biggest gift. Minecraft. Witchcraft is all about intention. That is the most important thing. The tools we use are just conduits for that intention. While we are sure we all love the witchy aesthetic and proper traditional tools, that is not always viable. Some witches are in the closet, others may not be able to afford all the tools. It adds up rather quickly. So we came up with a clever way to practice witchcraft to our heart's content. Minecraft. Altars. First, let's create our space. Altars are something that can be hard to have in real life. They take up a lot of space and cost money to decorate, so why not do it in Minecraft? In item frames, go ahead and place an item that represents each element. Feel free to get creative with it. Luckily, Minecraft added candles, so you can use those instead of torches. You can even color the candles for color magic. Beforehand, we just used Minecraft Education Edition and used their colored torches. Make sure to also have a bell for cleansing. For cleansing ingredients, you may also want a cauldron with a fire under it. Ingredients. Luckily, Minecraft has a lot of ingredients. There's amethyst, quartz, lavender, all very basic ingredients, and the ingredients you don't have, you can make. Simply rename an item that looks similar with an anvil. For example, the emerald is now a jade. You can also install mods to expand your item options. Spells. To make a spell jar, grab a chest and throw them in. Feel free to label the chest with a sign so you can keep track. You could also throw the ingredients into a cauldron if it's more of a stove spell. Sigil spells are also possible. You can make pixel art of the sigil. Unfortunately, these end up needing to be quite big, not easy to fit in a virtual house. You can also use a book and quill. You can use this book as a book of shadows, or you could write a petition and burn it. Familiars. Contrary to popular belief, a familiar does not have to be a living thing. It can be an object, or really anything, so why not make it also be a piece of code? You can also do tarot in Minecraft. This requires some knowledge on redstone. You can take pieces of paper and name them as cards from a tarot deck, and then put them in a redstone randomizer and boom, shuffled deck. We suck at redstone, so we've never actually built one. Conclusion. There's probably so much more you could do here, but these are just a few of our ideas. I hope it was able to kickstart some people's imaginations and also help those in the broom closet or on a budget. Sienna Shaw's Psychosis and Terrifier. We saw Terrifier 3 a few weeks ago, and what an amazing fucking movie. Definitely our top 5 theater experiences. Anyway, we wanted to talk a bit about the best final girl, Sienna Shaw, specifically about her psychosis. Spoilers for Terrifier 3. In the second movie, we are told Sienna is neurodivergent through context clues, but aren't shown much. We just know she's on medication, but the third movie isn't scared to show her struggles. In Terrifier 3, Sienna experiences hallucinations of her dead friend, Brooke. She also experiences many breakdowns and panic attacks. The movie never makes fun of her for it. Her family sees her as a safety concern as they have a younger child to worry about, but they also understand she's been through the unthinkable. They were going to help her by sending her to the hospital, not just throw her out into the streets. Sienna's worst fear and paranoia eventually comes true. Art the Clown is really back, but how can she know? The movie plays with her psychosis not being able to tell what's real and what's not. How much is art / Demon Vicky, and how much is her own mind? This leads to an element of psychological horror to the franchise. It's quite smart too. Most of us don't know what it's like to be hunted down and marked by a serial killer, especially a demon one, but not being able to tell what's real, a very human experience, one already terrifying, twisted further. Seeing a film on the big screen actually care for this part of Sienna's character was great. Actual neurodivergent rep can be hard to come by. Psychosis is especially heavily stigmatized and typically not handled with the proper care. A movie that comes to mind for us is Renfield. Renfield came out in 2023 and followed R.M. Renfield from Dracula, specifically the 1931 adaptation with Dwight Frye's Renfield. Both the original novel and Dwight Frye's version of the character experienced psychosis. Both versions of the character are present in a psychiatric hospital and their respective mediums. The book goes much more in depth with Renfield's delusions about the souls of bugs haunting him, for example. It's a huge part of his character, but the 2023 movie shows absolutely none of that. Renfield has no hints of psychosis whatsoever. Not to mention, the movie demonizes NPD a few times. It's still a fun watch, don't get us wrong, but the writers could have done so much better honoring the original character. It is possible to have a protagonist with psychosis, and Terrifier proved it. Here's to the 4th installment and a hopeful victory for the best final girl. That was it for today's Podlr. Please stick around for another upload of more ramblings on Tumblr.